Seattle versus Detroit. That's music to our ears. The cities that gave us grunge and Motown respectively now give us an American League Division Series matchup that begins Saturday at T-Mobile Park and sounds pretty sweet. Because this is a series that is going to bring one of the game's ultimate aces, Tarik Skubal, back to the Pacific Northwest, where he once toiled in relative anonymity for Seattle University before the Tigers plucked him out of the 9th round of the draft and watched him turn into, in all likelihood, a back-to-back Cy Young winner. And this is a series that's going to bring the big dumper, Cal Raleigh, to the postseason stage on the heels of his historic 60-homer season while squatting behind the dish. So those are two players on the short list of most important players from the 2025 MLB season. And these are two teams weirdly familiar with the seismic shifts that can occur when they play each other. Because back on July 11th, the Tigers and Mariners opened a 3-game series in Detroit with the Tigers holding MLB's best record and the M's sitting just outside the playoff picture. One Mariners sweep later, and both seasons did an about-face. From that point on, the Mariners posted the 3rd best record in MLB, while the Tigers went into a free fall that saw them squander what had been a 15.5 game division lead. Ultimately, it was the Mariners who won their division and earned the number 2 seed and first-round bye that came with it, while the Tigers had to exhaust their way through a bitter wild card series battle with the Guardians team that had shockingly run them down in the regular season. Given that dynamic, you'd have to give the edge to the Mariners here. Then again, we've seen some very good teams struggle after the layoff between rounds, and the Tigers are digging themselves again, having come out of their nightmare September and lived to tell the tale. Plus, did we mention they have Tarik Skubal? Because he's a pretty big deal. Let's start right there when assessing this series' major plot points. Skubal will be available to the Tigers on regular rest for Game 2, and should the series go the distance, Game 5. In a sport short on aces because of the injury rate and the way pitchers are developed and utilized these days, Skubal stands out as the rare individual who can single-handedly swing a series. It is essential that the Tigers take advantage of every opportunity they have with him on the mound. The Mariners' rotation runs deeper, but how deep is dependent on what they can get from Bryan here. He was their best starter in 2025. He made 20 starts in which he went at least 5 innings and held his opponent to 2 runs or fewer. But a late-season pectoral issue complicated Woo's readiness for October, and we'll see what and when he can deliver. The Mariners don't have Skubal, but where they have the clearest edge in this series is at the plate. It's not just the big dumper dumping 60 on us, or Julio Rodríguez enjoying a second-half surge in which he had an OPS over 900. It's the total collection of talent the M's have assembled. Mid-season moves for Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor deepened a lineup that led the majors with 5.6 runs per game in September. The Tigers' bats, on the other hand, rode the struggle bus in September, generating just 4 runs per game. That struggle continued in the first 2 games of the wildcard series before the bats finally broke out in the late innings of their Game 3 clincher in Cleveland. You want X Factors? We've got X Factors. How about Randy Arozarena? He's a modern-day Mr. October. How's this for a stat? Arozarena's 1.138 OPS in the postseason trails that of only 2 other players with at least 100 plate appearances, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Pretty cool, huh? If October Randy shows up again, that'll rock the Tigers' world. The Tigers need their own left fielder, Riley Green, to rise to the occasion this series. He's their best hitter, but he struck out in 30% of his plate appearances this season. And those struggles are enough of an issue that manager A.J. Hinch actually took the bold step of pinch hitting for Green in a big moment in the wildcard round. Look to see if Green, who showed 30 homer, 30 double power this year, can lock it in this round. The Skubal factor is obvious here, but the Tigers are going to need more than just their ace. Hinch's circle of trust in the bullpen is not as wide as it was a year ago, and it is essential that rookie Troy Melton who emerged as a nice late inning weapon in 2025, not melt down the way he did in Game 2 against the Guards, when he served up the go-ahead runs in the Tigers' lone loss. Beyond Wu, a key Mariners pitcher to watch in this series is lefty Gabe Speier out of the bullpen. He's tough on fellow lefties, but nearly as tough on righties, and he's been used anywhere from the 5th through the 9th innings for Seattle this season. Look for him in some of the major leverage moments. Speaking of leverage moments, we have ample October history that tells us Tigers manager A.J. Hinch is pretty adept at utilizing his bullpen in the postseason. In the other dugout, this will be Seattle skipper Dan Wilson's first experience manning those mid-game switches on the sport's biggest stage. All right, prediction time. Between Skubal not being available on full rest until Game 2, the Tigers' lumber mostly laboring of late, the Mariners having perhaps a more distinct home field edge than usual with the Tigers' long travel, and the argument that the Mariners have an on-paper advantage at the majority of spots on the field, this feels like Seattle's series to lose. I'm taking the Mariners in 4. But if it gets to Game 5 and the ball is in Tarik Skubal's hands, well, that won't be music to Mariners fans' ears, will it? Enjoy the series.